What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Barking for Balance, the podcast where we talk about dogs, but we also talk about whatever it is that can teach, inspire, and entertain. I am Pat the Packman, and I am the dog behavior and rehabilitation specialist for Packman to the Rescue, Canine Solutions and Coaching. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. And to all my loyal supporters and pack maniacs, or whatever it is we're going to call ourselves, thank you for your support, guys. You guys are the bomb. You guys are the bomb. I want to first and foremost ask, have you guys subscribed to this podcast yet? Have you subscribed to the Barking for Balance podcast yet? If you have not, what are you waiting for? My God, aspetto. We speak Sicilian here. See, there's something special. Make sure you subscribe. We are on Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Spotify, and Amazon Podcast. We're also on YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Make sure you follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. That is under Packman to the Rescue. That is Packman to the Rescue. TO, not spelled number 2. Okay. It's Packman, Packman to the Rescue. Follow us. You got to follow us. We got a cool stuff going on, and subscribe to the podcast, guys. If you've done so already, you know what I'm talking about. Usapita got the fun of watch it. There you go. You don't want to miss this podcast. We have fun on here. Plenty of cool topics, plenty of fun stuff. E parliamo siciliano. We talk about food. It's all good stuff here on Packman to the Rescue, at Packman to the Rescue. And part of Packman to the Rescue is what? Barking for Balance, the podcast. Yeah. Whew, that was exhausting right there. I'm getting old. Ooh, that all my energy, all my excitement is spewing out there. Listen, I love doing this. I love teaching. I love inspiring. I love entertaining, and that's my calling for doing all this. That's my calling. That's what God made me. So we're gonna have fun. So it's all good. Today in this podcast episode, I want to discuss the power of having a good support system. Yeah, it's an important topic. It relates. I find that's a topic that doesn't just relate to dogs, although it really has a major impact when it comes to our dogs, but it also has a major impact when it comes to our lives. So, that's one of the reasons why I love doing this and I love following this philosophy. Perché cristiane sono importante. The support system, people are important as much as, we work with dogs, we train dogs, blah, blah, blah. Hey, if you're my supporters, you know exactly how it works. If you've been following this podcast, you know exactly how it works. We don't train dogs here at Packman to the Rescue. We do not talk about training dogs here on Barking for Balance. What we do is we train people, not dogs. That is correct. And major component of training people is getting people into an emotional state that is conducive to dogs that will trust, respect, and follow them. It's making sure that we have dogs that are happy, fulfilled, and well-behaved, not well-trained. That stuff is not really what we should be looking for. We have to have a good mindset, emotionally, spiritually, intellectually stable and strong and confident in order for dogs to be happy, fulfilled, and well-behaved. And I find that's really the reason why I do this for a living, is not to train dogs. It's really to make sure that dogs are happy, fulfilled, and well-behaved. And to do so, it's the human. We have to make sure that we address the human, because dogs are domesticated creatures that live with humans. So without the proper knowledge, without the proper information, those dogs do not go down the right path. And love is a component. We talked about this on plenty of other podcast episodes. Volere bene un cane è importante. Loving a dog is important, but there's more than just that, right? So we have to understand the mindset of a dog. And that's really what I teach clients and I teach people on this podcast platform, is how to understand the psychology of the dog, how to communicate dog language, how to correct, when to correct, why to correct. These are the things that, how to understand dog instincts, what they want, what they need, what they require, both from a dog perspective, but also from a breed and or breeds perspective, how to mentally and physically stimulate them, how to establish direction, boundaries, and limits. All this kind of stuff is really what's necessary. We have to understand dogs. We really do need to understand dogs. And what I find and what I have found in my journey in getting here is really that, having a support system that, gives you those tools, that gives you that support from an emotional standpoint, is really like 95% of this battle, which is what I always say to people. 95% of this battle when it comes to, having a dog that's happy, fulfilled, and well-behaved, and making sure that you create that trust, respect, and love relationship, that relationship with your dog, and that of giving them trust, respect, and love, and them giving you back trust, respect, and love. This way it becomes like a full-blown relationship, is understanding their needs. And unfortunately, there's times where, if we're working with dogs, we want our situation to change, especially when you have a dog that is maybe you're starting off a little later. Maybe you tried and you did whatever it is that you did, and now we're dealing with some behavioral issues, some psychological issues, and we want that situation to change. And so we try to do things. I know that in my journey, again, especially with Socks in particular, when I was working with rehabilitating him, me, much if I always get like all weirded out. I feel like all like anxiety when I think about it, all this the stress and aggravation that it went through rehabilitating him. But listen, at the end of the day, he's the reason why I'm here, and that's the stuff that I had to go through to get to this point. And now, that's why I want to share that as well, because I know firsthand what it's like to be in a situation where, even if you don't have the right support system around you, you also can be your own worst support system. Even if you're by yourself, you don't have the people that are helping to lift you up, to carry you forward. So, when I work with my clients, that's the one thing I tell them is we got to work as a team, and I'm going to get to all this in a second. But when it comes to, again, we want our situation to change. We have a dog that's developed some behavioral issues or whatnot. So sometimes we agree, people agree, or you agree, and you have this a support system, and you believe that that's possible. Some people will agree with you, some people will be supportive, and that really is what helps for us to continue to move forward. And that's really one of what I tell everybody is my role when working with my clients, is to give them not just the knowledge, because the knowledge is really is 5%, is giving them that support that what they're doing is the right thing, and they got to continue to move forward, and to help them, come down from the ledge, when they're getting carried away, when they're, feeling like it's not working, or whatever the case may be, and when they're doubting themselves, when they're doubting, their abilities, when they're doubting everything about them. That's what I step in to do so. But in the interim period, which is the reason why I developed this podcast, is because in the interim period, there's gonna be moments when we're starting to doubt whatever it is, doubt yourself, doubt the process, doubt your dog, doubt your willingness, your desire, your ability, whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you have people that are doubters just as much, and I got news for you, doubters are a dime a dozen, you know what I mean? So no, there's tons of people that are going to be trying to put you down based on their own personal experience, and what they have done, and what they see, and what they think of you, or what they think of your dog, or what they think of the process and the knowledge, or whatever the case may be. So now those doubts and those worries start to take root. You need you need partners who are faith driven. If you've been following this podcast, you know that I'm God centered. Everything about me is about God. I put my faith and my patience in God. And so if you have, God provided me with a support system that has been conducive to do so. Whatever it is that you end up doing, or you end up having, you need to have a group, a support system around you that is faith driven, whether it's faith in you, faith in the process, faith in God, faith in the universe, faith in cheeseburgers, whatever. Whatever it is, you need people that are going to continue to push you, that are going to continue to support you, they're going to continue to encourage you, and are not going to bring you down because of the doubts that in their mind they feel is reality. It's a lot more than just having, the right knowledge. You need more than just a knowledge source. I can provide knowledge. Absolutely. The internet can provide knowledge. Other people can provide knowledge. But here's the problem. A lot of those sources are just that. They're sources. Some of those sources, a lot of those sources are really should not be in the game of giving advice and guidance, because that's ridiculous. There's some ridiculous knowledge out there And so, but people that are looking for help, people that need help, that need support, they go, in this day and age, especially, they go to the internet. I go myself, but unfortunately the internet is loaded with information. Some is good, some is half-assed, and some is just facade, just crap. So, you read that, like just off the top of my head, and I know that this is, people actually follow these things, because I have had clients who have followed such incredibilmente stupid cose così stupid stuff that is so ridiculously stupid, such as, when housebreaking a dog, housebreaking a puppy or whatever, you have to wake them up every so hours in the middle of the night. So if your dog is sleeping through the night, which is your goal when you're housebreaking, these idiots are telling you, no, wake them up. You have to keep the schedule. So wake them up in the middle of the night. That is so ridiculously absurd. But I know for a fact that people that are looking for help, they're eager and they're trying their best and they're looking for knowledge and for help and support. They follow these rules, and so when I start working with them, all of a sudden I find, hey, they tell me that that's what they've done. And then we one of the problems that they're having is housebreaking issues. Well, I wonder why. You know what I mean? So, so that's the problem with finding those issues. So yes, knowledge does play a major role. Of course, the right knowledge plays a major role, because dog training tactics and dog training techniques do not help when getting a dog that's happy, fulfilled, and well behaved. It does not help with building a relationship with your dog. It just teaches your dog to perform tricks. Teaches your dog to perform on command, like a computer kind of thing, like a robot. In my opinion, this is my personal feelings on it. Having a dog, a human relationship, is just that. It's a relationship. And as a relationship, you need to cater to the other individual's needs, wants, and desires. So this way they're providing you, you're providing them. And it's a great thing. It's more than just having a dog, like buying a watch or buying a car or buying whatever. That's just stuff. If you just want stuff for stuff, then you don't get why dogs are so important, because they also help us in so many different ways. And this is one of them, is they help us stay focused. They help us stay disciplined. They help us stay, confident. They help us stay assertive. They help us stay, positive. Whatever word you want to associate to, you want to add to that, that's what they do. You know what I mean? So they help us stay calm. That's a key one, guys. Quanto voto laurito? How many times have I said this? That the biggest thing that you got to learn is you got to be calm. People that have worked with me have heard this a million times. Quanto un billione de volte? You got to be calm. You got to be relaxed. Calm mind, relaxed body. That's really the foundation. When I say 95%, 95% is really that, guys. Calm mind, relaxed body. That's really the secret. And that's to perform certain behavior, like walking on a leash, but also to make sure that your dog is in the right mindset, so that they don't develop those kind of behavioral issues or behavioral problems that people don't like or don't want. You know what I mean? So 95% of the battle is based on that. It's a calm mind. But how can you be calm when you're like looking at all this stuff and you don't really know which direction to go, or somebody's telling you something and you're trying to do the right thing, but they're bringing you down? You can't stay calm. You can't stay focused. You can't stay disciplined, because they're just destroying you. So now your confidence goes out the door, right? So, when it comes to having the right knowledge, of course, sure, it's important, but having people that believe in you, that believe you can do it, is crucial. Having people that don't put, because people will put, how can I put this? People would put past experiences, whether it's your past experiences or their own past experiences, and make them reality as of right now. But that doesn't count. I remember when I could go into so many stories, but I remember when I was going through the process of trying to change careers from being a financial, for those guys that don't know, I was a financial advisor for 16 years. Bello travaglio, I was a financial advisor for 16 years. And then I decided to pursue being a dog behaviorist. And I tried to And I'll make it. I discussed this on a separate podcast. I forget which one it is. It's towards the beginning, actually. I think it's in the top 10 when we first started this podcast. So I go off on them a little bit. But to make a long story short, I decided to pursue this job, and I went to one of the dog trainers that I had that I had hired in an attempt to help me fix my issues with socks. And I just I felt doubtful as to whether or not I could pursue it. So to avoid all the things to start my own business, building a following and doing all the business type stuff, I figured I'd just work for somebody else. You know what I mean? And so I went to him, asked him to if he would hire me, and to make a long story short, he sent me on this journey. Again, I'm not going to get into too much because I know my Kenani need. I'll get into, you got to listen to that episode altogether. But, he sent me on with his mentor who was going to test me out to see whether or not I qualified. She didn't feel I did. So he decided he wasn't going to hire me. And so now here I am. So the thing with that was that I was so doubtful about myself at that point. Like, I'm like, I don't have any experience. I mean, again, if you haven't listened to if you don't know anything about me or haven't listened to the podcast before, I was afraid of dogs till I was 28 years old, and then here I come, watching the Dog Whisperer show, putting into practice, volunteering at local shelters and doing what I needed to do. But still here, I'm going to do this as a career. Can I make a living doing this? There was so many doubts in my mind, and, people around me didn't really help because of the fact that, the odds were against me on this. And then this guy shows up and does that, it was just not, it was not helpful, and so it's really not a good thing. It's really not a good thing when you have people that are bringing you down, that are bringing their own past experiences, their own, your own past experiences, their own past experiences, and they're telling you that this is how you things should be. The thing is also, families, one of the things that has to happen when it comes to working with your dogs, when it comes to rehabilitating your dogs, is you all have to be on the same page. You can't, it's like raising a child. If the father's doing one thing, mom's doing another thing, if you're running a business, you have two bosses, two partners, whatever, one saying one thing, the other one saying something else. There's a lot of disarray. And here's where the word comes in, the magical word, balance. Henceforth, barking for balance. See, it's all ties in, guys. But it all comes back to that. There's no cohesiveness. There's no consistency. So who do we look to? How do we know what to do here? There's a lot of chaos. So dogs are in the same position. So when I tell people, I tell them, you guys have to work together. And I work with a lot of couples who disagree. They're at each other's they're at each other's throats. And I have to be part therapist, part Pacman, to teach him the dog stuff, but also to get him on the same page, and I have had major success, which is the reason why I'm known as the Pacman. I bring people together. I create packs. You know what I mean? I create packs, not just dogs, but dogs and dogs, human and dogs, human and humans. I do it all, cats. I mean, come on, sky's the limit. That's why I'm known as the Pacman, because I can create packs, and a pack is a family. You know what I mean? And a family has to support each other. Even if you don't agree, even if you don't like it, you gotta you have to be supportive. So like when it comes to like the couples, for example, it's common that one of the partners, one of the members of the couple of the household is stronger in some areas than the other. It's common for one of them to be weaker than the other. It just depends. So we have to rise the one, lift up the one that's weaker, and make sure that we all grow and we become equals. It's not a competition, guys, because at the end of the day, if you make it a competition, your dog's going to suffer. You know what I mean? So that's why we have to support each other. If you're, you may be strong at leash walking, but the other person may be strong at discipline. You may be strong at, I don't know, whatever, and the other one's, you know what I'm saying? So you kind of help each other out, become better in the areas that they need to. Can't do people. Can't do people bring your energy down, bring your motivation down. People that tell you can't do something, they piss me off. And they didn't just piss me off for myself. They also aggravate me for for my clients who have to deal with it. In fact, that's why when I first start working with people, I tell them that there's two rules here. The first rule is they need to stop Googling. And the reason why is because, again, there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I don't want people to start to follow that stuff that's going to completely derail the progress. Okay. I also tell them that they're going to have people, family, friends, they're going to tell them, well, this is what you should do. This is what I did, blah, blah, blah. And I tell them, you need to tell them to shut up, because everybody's going to have their opinion. Everybody's going to tell you, everybody thinks that they're a dog expert. Listen, just because you've had dogs or you've had dogs your whole life, doesn't mean you know dogs. And I always say this, I've had a heart my whole life. It does not make me a cardiologist. I'll perform surgery on you right now. It doesn't make you an expert. So I want people to follow a certain process and to make sure that I'm there to let them continue, because that's where all of a sudden you start to realize what you're doing is actually giving you the results. Okay. And it's more than just the techniques and the knowledge information. It's also, again, it's just to continue to do those simple things that you may not think are working, but they actually are working, and if you have, again, we talk about energy, and I say this all the time, calm and relax is key. You start having can't do people, doubters. Is your energy going to be calm? Of course not. Is your body going to be relaxed? Of course not. Because then your mind starts playing tricks on you. You start to wonder, well, I'm not sure. It's actually, as a matter of fact, you start to, get confused, and confusion is the enemy of calmness. Confusion is the enemy of relaxation, and then frustration kicks in. And guess what? Frustration is the enemy of calmness. Frustration is the enemy of relaxation. It all ties in hand. It's all hand in hand. You know what I mean? So can't do people bring your energy and your motivation down. Okay. You have to lose the doubters. You have to lose the can't do people, because God, in my personal experience, God will bring the can do people, the supportive people, when you eliminate those that are actually bringing you down. When a problem is too big, right, or too complicated, it's easy to agree with the doubters. Well, because you see that as the reality of what's going on. So you're like, what, maybe they're right. Listen, professional dog trainers give you advice. Family and friends are going to give you advice. Experienced people with whatever are going to give you advice. And a lot of this stuff doesn't just tie in with dogs. It ties in with life. When I was rehabilitating socks, you have to, how could I put this? You have to stop believing what you're seeing. I'm sorry. How could I put this? Me stai confondendo io. Don't believe what you see. That's the best way I could put this. Do not believe what you see. What do I mean by that? So in tough times, it's important who you allow into your life and who into your mind and into your spirit more than anything else. So when I was working with Socks, trying to rehabilitate him, and for those of you guys that don't know, Socks was 10 months old when I adopted him. He had been returned to the shelter 3 times for his behavioral issues, and I was extremely close to being number 4, no matter what. And I was busting my ass. Now, again, for those of you guys that don't know, I learned everything I know from watching the Dog Whisperer TV show, along with reading Cesar Millan's books. So that's where my knowledge came from. And then I put it into practice, and I perfected the techniques. So I knew everything, right? My techniques were perfect, because that was what my focus was on, is this is how it's done. So that's what I have to perfect. The problem was that I never learned where the key ingredient was to earn his trust and respect, right? And that's with, well, you talked about this, calm mind, relaxed body. So I did not have those ingredients. I was frustrated, angry, because he was driving me crazy, like the amount of effort, the workload, the stress, the aggravation. It was just a nightmare. And so the frustration, it was just too much, because my techniques were flawless. I perfected those techniques. You know what I mean? And so this was even before I started volunteering at the shelter. So like I was following those techniques perfectly. And I used to videotape myself, because what I would do is, especially from like the Dog Whisper TV show, I would rewind and fast forward, each frame by frame and analyze his movements, Cesar Millan's movements and his techniques, and listen to every single word and pay attention to what was going on. And then I would copycat it, right? But I never paid attention to what he was saying when it came to the mind. The mind didn't matter. It was the body. Whatever my body was doing was key, but my brain was hyperactive. I was overthinking, overanalyzing. It was just too much. So there was no calmness and no relaxation. Therefore, it wasn't working. I wasn't earning his trust and respect. He was bulldozing me. He was overpowering me. I used to pass some horrible days because it was like I was his bitch. You know what I mean? It was horrible. So when I finally realized what was necessary, that's when, times changed. That's when all of a sudden I realized that what I needed was someone to point out what I needed to do. And because my brain was so focused on the technique aspect of it, the emotional aspect wasn't there. The most important ingredient wasn't there at all. So I was believing what I was saying. And that's why I ended up starting to make arrangements to bring him back and to return him and almost become number 4 of the losers that had failed this poor dog. I was about to become the 4th loser to have failed this poor dog, So, and he's the one who's suffering. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So, the reality became, I can't do it. The reality became, he's too much. The reality became, this shit don't work. You know what I mean? That's what the reality became. And so God really came upon me and showed me what I needed to do. And that's when all of a sudden things clicked. For me personally, again, people are, this is how I see it. People are get sent to me for a purpose, to show me, to teach me, sometimes for just, a little bit of time, sometimes permanently. It just depends on the circumstances. But the fact of the matter is that regardless of what how long they're around for, they're meant to teach, inspire, and entertain, I guess, so, but the bottom line is that God also inspires me sometimes through external factors such as television, sometimes just through circumstances, for me to change and to understand that maybe I need to pay attention to what I'm not doing or need to be doing differently, as opposed to looking at the facts and making those reality. Because once I was looking at the facts, I can't do this. This is what I was going on in my mind. I can't do this. I am a failure. I'm a loser. This dog sucks. This dog's too complicated. This dog's a mess. That crap don't work. That stuff is just junk. Then all of a sudden it became worse and worse. So I had to kind of like take a step back and recognize what I was doing wrong and how to fix it, and what ingredients were missing to make this whole, and so, in those tough times, it's important who you allow to speak into your life. And again, God speaks to me, in a way that, I'm receptive to it, but sometimes it's external. Sometimes things happen that kind of force me to do something, like in this particular case. So, when it comes to dogs, people too, for that matter, but like I see this often, is dogs that are in a bad way, don't need sympathy. They don't need people that feel bad for them. And that's one of the mistakes that I see often, is people that feel bad for a dog. I get it. Listen, I'm a dog lover. I do this for a living for a reason. I do this for a reason. And I understand that there's a lot of bad people out there that do bad things, a lot of bad circumstances. I get it. But the one thing that's important is, once they're out of those situations and then they're in a better environment, feeling bad for them doesn't help, because it keeps them in the past, much like with the person. They don't need people that are in a tough situation. Don't need sympathy. They don't need people to feel bad for them. They need somebody to motivate them to move forward, to move past it, to grow, to enhance, to change, to improve, whatever, the word you want to use is. You need somebody who's going to be a powerful partner for you, who's going to be, looking beyond, the potential and see like things that you don't think are possible. Almost like, what's the word? Like a supernatural event, a supernatural outcome. And I've seen these things happen in my personal life in ways that I'm like, I don't understand how that's possible. I don't understand. I don't get it. But knowing what I know now about faith and patience and about God, it's easier for me to kind of like get refocused in that direction because of the fact that I know what has happened in the past for me and what has happened in the past with my relationship with Socks and Pepper and my first dog Peanut and other areas of life as well. But, Peanut, I'm sorry, Pepper came to me, after my first dog Peanut died. I want to say maybe like 4 or 5 months later. I forget exactly when, but she was like, a gift from God. And I recognize how, based on where life was going to take me or God was going to take me, she was needed at that point. And so I would never have been able to get Pepper if Peanut was still around. And I mean, I'm going to get a little emotional talking about it, but I don't want to get too much into it. But, Peanut almost had to sacrifice himself to bring Pepper into the picture. And I always say this, when I talk to him, I did talk to him, his little ashes and stuff, but I thank him, and because he knew that, his time was up and he needed to bring the new the new one in. I don't want to get into this because I'm gonna get a little emotional about it. But the bottom line is that you need power partners. And for me to go into this journey, I needed my power partners, and Socks and Pepper are my power partners. They are my power partners. They are allowing me to achieve and do supernatural stuff. One of them, hey guys, listen, I hate to say this, but one of them is this podcast. When I go back, and I have not gone back, which I'm going to I'm going to do actually, I'm going to go back and look at the first episode that I shot of this podcast. And I got to tell you, I remember when I first shot it, in the beginning of the year, I felt so awkward and uncomfortable, and it was just so unnatural. And this is now the evolution where I feel so much more comfortable about it. I feel like, this actually is doing exactly what it was that I always envisioned. And so it just goes to show how, when you continue to push forward and you continue to have people around you, because when I ask people, like, you listen to the podcast, what do you think? Tell me. I always want to hear what people think about it. And I would love to hear your opinion, guys. So write down some comments and let me know what you think, good and bad, or ugly or whatever. Un po' di cose belle che ho sa, but honestly, everything good, bad, and ugly, what you think. Because, when I hear certain thing, I had a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago, actually, he listened to one of the podcasts. He actually watched it on YouTube. And he's like, wow, Pat, you were incredible. It was like watching a TV show. And listen, I tend to put myself down a lot. I tend to be an overthinker, overanalyzer. I tend to, be, a downer on my own, which again is one of the reasons why you got to have a support system around you that brings you up when you are the downer. You know what I mean? And he made me feel like I was like a superstar. You know what I mean? And I felt great about it. And so he really empowered me to continue. And now every time I do these things and I record these things, I feel confident, because I know what I'm talking about, but you never know how it comes out on the other end. You know what I mean? So again, a power partner right there that just gives insight. And this was a blessing. This was God, that just said, I want to take care of this guy. I'm going to make this guy give you a compliment so he feels good. So my clients tell me, Pat, I was listening to this podcast, or I heard about this, and we talk about it. Like, tell me about that a little bit. I'm like, yeah, no, that was cool, and I loved how you said, and I really didn't know. It's accomplishing what we're here for. So it makes me want to do more of it. You know what I mean? And that's really the goal. So, the ability to go, to what's the word? The ability to go to I'm getting a little emotional here. I'm a little emotional. Yeah, I get a little emotional sometimes. Listen, I love doing this. This is my calling, and I love teaching, inspiring, and entertaining guys. So I'm a clown. I'm a payacho, payacho. But listen, it's all good at the end of the day. That's why we love. Let's do what we love. We'll talk about that another day. But anyway, so the doubters are really what we have to eliminate because they suck the life out of us. I said this before. They suck the energy out of us, the motivation, the dreams, out of your heart, out of your mind, out of your soul, out of your spirit. I tell people this is what you need to do. They follow the pattern. But if it doesn't work, it doesn't mean it's not working. It just means it takes time. It means it takes time for you to get in the right mindset. You know what I mean? Too many times we tend to give up because we don't get what we want in an appropriate time that is in our mind. We have a timeline on it. Again, when I go back to talk, when I go back and I talk about socks, the whole thing with socks was that it wasn't working. I was doing everything right, but it wasn't working. And I came to the breaking point where it's not working. It's me that's not working. It's the stuff over there that's not working. It's him who's not working. All that became my reality, when the fact of the matter is, it wasn't any of that. It's I needed to continue to push until it clicked. Because if at the end of the day, that's really how things happen. It's amazing how all of a sudden things just happen. Your financial situation, your health situation, your relationship situation, whatever the case may be, all of a sudden you're busting your ass. You're doing the right things. You're doing what's necessary. You got to stay in faith, guys. You got to stay in faith. Hence why faith and patience go hand in hand, because you could believe all you want, but if you're not patient and continue to believe throughout it, then you start to get discouraged. And when when that does happen, happens to me all the time, you need the support system. You need to get rid of the doubters and the can't doers who are going to come into your household, into your picture, into your life, into your head, and all of a sudden tell you, you can't do it. That dog's not right for you. That dog's too much. You suck. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, fanculo. That's what you tell them. That's Italian, by the way. So, and I always also share with people to clients, I share this a lot because it's one of the things that I tend to do myself is no need to share and disclose your quote unquote stuff to everyone. You know what I mean? It's not necessary for everybody to know what you're doing, how you're doing it. If, whatever, it's not necessary to tell everyone what you're doing and how you're doing. And it's not necessary because they're going to have their opinion. In America, that's what it's about. Everybody shares their opinion. Listen, opinions are like feet. Everybody's got a couple and they all stink. Perfetuse. You don't need that. Okay. So keep it to yourself. I'm working with my dog. How? Tell me a little bit about that. I'm just working with some stuff. Especially, it's important to keep that inside of you when you know that the people that are asking are those that are can doers and Debbie Downers. Okay. You don't want to share that because you know that they're going to find something negative to say. I have those kind of people around. So I tend to kind of like, keep them at a distance. I'll talk about some stuff, but not everything, because I know that their feelings or opinions, whatever you want to call it, come vogliamo chiamare, si chiamano, is going to affect how I feel, think, and act going forward. And then I got to regroup. So why? Just avoid it altogether. A lot of times also as your current circumstances and your facts are not, the facts of where you are and the circumstance you are not factors to your future success or even current success, right? The doubters, the can't doers, the Debbie Downers, the can't doers, we'll put those in the front of your mind and make that the reality. Listen, you've been working with this leash and this walking or whatever for 3 months. It's not working. I don't know. It's just not working. Well, I'm trying. Okay. Well, it's not working. Okay. And then you quit, right? Or you're trying to fix whatever and you're not there. You have to look at what you're doing, but you also have to look at what you're doing or not doing wrong, or what you're doing wrong or what you're not doing, period. Again, like with me, I was doing everything right, but it wasn't working. I'll repeat that. Lo ripeto, ascoltatemi. I was doing everything right, technique-wise, but the results were non-existent. Now, if I were to share this with people, family, friends, people, whatever, they would have told me that he's a pit bull. Pit bulls are stubborn. Pit bulls are aggressive. Pit bulls are bad dogs. And now all of a sudden that becomes my reality. You know what I mean? And now all of a sudden that becomes what I see, and that becomes what I hear, and that becomes what I think, and that becomes blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? Capisci che dico io? That's the key here. So have the opinions, the downers, the doubters, and the can't doers who step in, and, well, pitbulls. It's a pitbull. He's a bad dog. He needs to be put down. Whatever the case may be, this is the kind of stuff that you're going to have to, that I knew that I was going to hear, you know, that's what you have to, you have to stay away from. You have to stay away from all that kind of stuff, and within your household, you got to create agreements. If you're in the same household, especially, that's really where you can't avoid each other, husband, wives, partners, kids, when you're in the same household, when that good dog is part of your family and you're like, there, you can't avoid them. You're going to have some family members who are going to be that, right? You got to make an agreement. That's what I tell, clients when I'm working with them, is I want everybody in front of me. This way I can make sure that you all are on the same page. And if somebody, becomes a Debbie Downer or a can doer, I'll yell at them, because I don't want them to bring the rest of the family down. You know what I mean? You need to pump yourself up so that you could become like the good ones, like the confident ones. You have to make sure that you stay in agreement. You have to make sure that you don't break that agreement. You got to write it down like a contract. Jesus Christ, do so. 2 is always better than 1. 3 is better than 2. 4 is better than 3, because when one falls, when one is down, the other ones can lift them up. When doubt, negative circumstances cause you, come, so you encourage each other, you support each other, you bring the other one up, and that's really the key here is it's going to happen. It's going to happen throughout. I mean, it happened to me, happens to my clients when they become that, and so I teach them to become their own support system. I myself am in that position where I'm their support system. That's the whole job. That's my job, is to be that support system, and listen, if you're thinking, well, I don't have anyone who is that full of faith, of support or confidence or whatever. Well, I got news for you guys. That's why God is making you listen to this podcast right now, right? You know what I'm saying? You hear what I'm saying? I'm believing for what you're believing for. Okay. I'm your support system. That's why God is sending you this podcast. That's why God is sending you the Packman, because I am here believing for what you're believing for. You know what I'm saying? I'm here to support you. I'm here to guide you. I'm here to give you the right knowledge, but more than anything, I'm here to empower you. I'm here to tell you that you can do stuff. As I always say, I cannot give you the will, but I can give you the skill. But throughout that process, when you get down, until you just throw in the towel and say, that's it, I'm done, I'm still going to try to get you out of that hole. I'm going to pull you out of that hole. But at the end of the day, if you don't want me to pull you out of that hole, then I can't. It's not possible. You know what I mean? But I will have your back 100%. You will not fail as long as you don't quit. I have accomplished stuff that I really am shocked about, such as writing an autobiography, doing a podcast. I always said this, again, I was my own Debbie Downer. I'm not built for this. I can't talk in front of a screen. I'm talking to myself. I tell my mom, old school Sicilian, about this when I first started this. And I tell her, yeah, I just sit there and I talk. You talk to yourself. Yeah, must have Ford. Are you crazy? That, Italian mothers, but that's really, if you think about it, that's what I'm doing right now. I'm talking to myself, right? And my mother must have Ford. But that's what I'm doing. This is a message that's being sent out. Listen, old school. That's a whole other story we'll talk about. I have to bring my mom on this podcast. You guys would get a kick out of her. But that's the thing is people that don't understand, people that don't know, and that's the kind of stuff that all of a sudden it starts to, blossom in my mind. It starts to grow in my mind. It starts to take roots. Yeah, it's true. I mean, who's going to listen to me? Who am I? Listen, guys, I get a little down on myself, but the bottom line is when at the end of the day, I know what I'm talking about when it comes to this. I learn from the master, I learn from the best, but I have my own personality to it. I have my own spin to it. I have my own way of teaching it. I have my own desire of what I want to do. I want to teach people. I want to train people, not dogs. I want to inspire people because that's really the one thing that I feel in America is missing is that level of inspiration. Sometimes that inspiration is just far-fetched and ridiculously and just it's non-existent. People that encourage others to do certain things, telling somebody that they can do something when it's really not possible, you got to give them the tools if you want it to be possible because you know you have to be realistic. You know what I mean? I can't, how could I put this? How can you be, supportive of a 95-year-old person who can't even walk when they get a, 110-pound lab who has the X energy of a monster, who's very dominant, very assertive, and this other person's very submissive and calm. There has to be an ability to change on that person, but sometimes it's just not realistic. You know what I mean? So it doesn't mean that you're doubting them. It doesn't mean that you're, but there has to be some realistic expectations here. Anybody can do anything, but at the end of the day, some things, are just not right. And that's okay. I've done things in my days where they weren't the right thing to do, or maybe it wasn't the right time. I know that if I were to try this journey of dog stuff back in the day, years before it even happened, decades before it even happened, never would have happened that way. Things never would have worked out. And, I don't feel sometimes with certain people, again, a dog human relationship is just that. It's a relationship, right? And sometimes that relationship is just not right, and so I never condemn people who, have to return a dog because of the fact that they tried their best, but it just didn't work out. Sometimes it's just not meant to be, just like a relationship. Sometimes it's just not meant to be. So what do? You just stay in there and just be miserable? It's just not meant to be. So you move on. So this way you could bring another dog in that's going to make you better, that you could help that dog, that dog's going to make you better. You're going to make them better. And that dog that you just couldn't handle goes somewhere else where they have the same ability, like a Sox. Sox was in 3 households before me, wasn't the right fit or whatever. I don't exactly know what the situation there was, but he was meant for me. He was my soulmate. He was meant for me. He is, he made me. He's done so much for me and I've helped him. So it's a relationship. We help each other. We were needed for each other. I needed him just as much as he needed me. That's really the bottom line. So, it's important to have an understanding. And I remember even when I brought a pit bull in, oh my God, a pit bull, you gotta be careful. Those guys are killer. Listen, and now, people that were doing that, now they're like all lovey-dovey. Oh, he's so sweet. He's so cute. He's so nice. Yeah, that's the point is where were you when this all started? You know what I mean? They were doing their own thing. So you have to have a good circle, right? You have to have a support system that's meant to give you, to make you better. You know what I mean? Don't be, a lot of times when it comes to people love, how can I put this without insulting anybody? People love other people to feel bad for them. They feel other people to be, they want other people to feel bad for them. That doesn't do anything. Doesn't do anything for anybody. You know what I mean? It does not do anything for anybody. If you're in a bad situation, then you need to have somebody who's going to bring you up, not keep you down. Yeah. Again, it goes back to like the dog stuff that I was talking about earlier. Sympathy. It doesn't help anybody. They don't need sympathy. They don't need, for you to feel bad for them. If you want somebody to feel bad for you, I'm not sure what the point of that is. I don't want people to feel bad for me with all the stuff that I've been through. I want people to help me get through it so I can feel good about it, feel good about stuff. You know what I'm saying? But regardless of the fact, listen, at the end of the day, the whole message behind this episode is really, find a good support system, encourage each other. If you're part of the same family, make sure you stay tight. And another message I want to send out. Hey, have you subscribed to the podcast yet? I got to be a general. What are you waiting for? Come on now. Google Podcast, Apple Podcast, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube. Make sure you go on all those platforms. Follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Packman to the rescue. Make sure you do all that stuff, okay? And listen, I'm here. If you don't have anyone around you, I'll say this again because this is a very important point. If you don't have anybody around you that is full of faith, full of support, full of confidence, then God sent me to you. God sent you this podcast. God sent you this episode. And that's why you're listening to this right now. I'm believing for what you're believing for. I'm supporting you for what you want to accomplish. That's what I'm here for. All right, guys, listen, it's about training people, not training dogs. Don't forget, that's the key. All right, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. I want to hear any questions, any concerns, any issues. You want to talk, hit me up. I'll be glad to talk. You guys are awesome. Remember, train people, not dogs. You hear what I'm saying? Megabish, megabish. There you go. All right, guys. Talk to you later. Catch you next time. Thanks for watching this episode of Barking for Balance.